different levels of, how they approach a problem. Their cognitive diversity is high. And at the same time, see that your organizations have high psychological safety, where someone do not hesitate to share information. Someone doesn't have any problem actually to, express themselves. So if you have this, then you can see, as you see in this graph, when you have high psychological safety and cognitive diversity, curiosity, encouragement, experimental, forceful. Don't get me wrong when you say forceful. We are referring to basically, how skilled you are when it comes to, generative. We'll talk about this a little while later. So how affirmative you are, how inquiring, how nurturing. Even in the low levels, if you see, when you have high psychological safety, even in low levels of cognitive diversity, it is, though there is flexibility is there to some extent, but hierarchy is there. So, but at the same time, if you look at the other angle, it's slightly, problematic when it comes to promoting innovations, or you have the issues associated with that. So I would probably say that these two elements are very important when you consider. And at the same time, we are talking about generative organizations or generative teams. A generative culture is the most successful in maintaining highly functioning organizations. So and especially when it comes to high stress situations, generative organizations, and these organizations and these teams have group problem solving or team problem solving, or people who can actually lead that and find solutions in critical times. So this is the second example that I wanted to bring from the wild and share with you, with giving you examples of spotted hyenas. Back to the sea. So these are killer whales, orcas, or killer whales, and they are the most famous predators of the deep blue ocean, and they're experts in working together, especially when hunting. And this example is set here because if you look at the way they teach their young ones how to hunt, scientists have documented elder killer whales nudging and coaxing, and how actually they help them to test out the hunting techniques. I'm talking about the motivational mentoring, which is integral in team building and teamwork. So motivational mentoring is going beyond what you think, that many a times people think that to be in organization and teams, it is the money that motivates. It's better than money motivation techniques that I'm talking about. So when you talk about mentoring, you will see that there are a lot of things that are stressed about, giving advice and then providing them direction and orientation. And some of these things probably will come up in the next talk. But equally important is the level of motivation that you are giving to your mentee. So that is a very important aspect as far as the team building is concerned. Let's move on to the next group of a pack of wolves. Okay, and why do I bring the wolves here? You know that the wolves are known for their tight-knit packs, social rankings, expert communication. But what I'm trying to give you is the picture that I'm going to, I have put here. That is the wolves howl, and I will call it the camaraderie howl. So it is believed that the scientists have enough evidences to say that they howl communally to help strengthen social bonds and camaraderie. So that is the next aspect when it comes to team building. Camaraderie is when people believe their co-workers as complete individuals. It is just not, you are not seen as another team member. You're not just seen as another faculty. You're not just seen as another unit member. So it is, you see them as complete individuals, which includes, you consider their families, their hobbies, their passions, and outside the work, especially, when they have fun and they celebrate. So may look a little bit trivial, but it shows that this is a very important aspect as far as the team building is concerned. And you will see that they celebrate life. Both personal and company milestones are celebrated, and they see the example that I just wanted to tell you, that in team building, the role that camaraderie plays. And as Robert Orban, the comedian, the writer, says, if you can laugh together, you can work together. So in other words, if you may not be in a position to laugh together, you probably cannot work together as a team. May not be true always, but if you can laugh together, you can work together definitely. Well, now to the skies. Most of you are familiar with this example that is often comes in your PowerPoints, WhatsApp groups about the Canada geese, how the geese would fly, the V formation and migrating long distances. If somebody at the tip is getting stuck or tired or sick, the other person takes the role. Talent rotation is an extremely important aspect discussed in today's avenues, especially you may call it flexibility in leadership and things like that. But it is an effective tool through which teams can develop their talent, and also they can always share or leverage their shared knowledge. Now, what is important here is when it comes to talent rotation is to actually sometimes to question some of the traditional formats that we have. If we have talent rotation, it has to be, number one, based on potential or capability. So it is not on the available bandwidth. That is what you must understand. So it is very important to honor, nurture talent. So you will see that it doesn't come, just because that I'm the next in the line, then let me take up. No, it doesn't happen that. It is based on your potential and capability that you actually occupy that position. When I say acceleration in terms of the rotational leadership, this is the talent flow that organizations or teams are very, they are looking, or what they consider very important. Otherwise, it will be like, it's like a fridge full of stale food, and it's no longer interesting and refreshing, right? So if you are going to have this acceleration, you will make everybody's role interesting, and you will also build a conscious culture where ideas have a merit regardless of hierarchy, roles, or titles, right? So we must be willing to press that refresh button as often as the system permits, without destabilizing it. Then comes the diversity aspect. I'm talking about the skill diversity. We must bring outside in and inside out perspectives, because it is very important. Diverse teams have a better chance of attracting top talents. So it is important in teamwork and team building. So that is the example that we had to share. Let's move on to something you all are familiar. Yeah, not that much in the wild, but it happens in our own premises. The cattle egret, the bird that you see here. I would put it for symbiotic synergy, and people who have studied, most of you are from the biology background, you know how important it is. These are two different things, symbiosis and synergy, but I've combined it basically. So symbiosis reflects a mutual relationship, as you know, beneficial relationship, where the success of one means the success of another. Whereas synergy is the concept, as a concept, that the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts. So we are putting this together. In teamwork, the knowledge and skill sets of individual members are of most value. And if you combine them, the results are going to be in greater outcomes. So I forgot to mention about the animal kingdom. You can see this often. They will be seen perching on cattle, right? And other grazing mammals. They will be actually clearing the parasites of the body of this cattle, right? And often we, as if you're someone who has grown up in this rural backgrounds where you get to see this, you see that the cattle often will shake up the and grass and dust, and you feel that this is actually showing a protest to the bird that is it, which is not true. It is trying to disturb the insects so that the bird gets its prey. So symbiotic synergy breeds respect. That is what you must be aware about. It can breed respect, it can breed innovation, it can breed creativity, and of course, an ongoing culture of development. You will not be punished for your mistakes, because they are accepted as lessons, and you will measure them in future risk. So you will see that the political blame game that often happens within the teams and organizations are basically disintegrated, and this comes with a culture of responsibility. That is where symbiotic synergy becomes important in team building. And you will see that brainstorming is not something that is done as an annual event for an annual appraisal or whatever it is. It's not a special event. Brainstorming in such teams and organization is a daily event, daily occurrence, and it breeds exceptional acceptance and innovation. Now, I have also mentioned that symbiotic synergy puts autonomy, mastery, and purpose into the hands of team members, through a balanced collaboration, and they know how much is important for the team and where is it right to press the brakes. And that is how they drive their teams and organizations to the next level of success. Well, most of you are familiar with this example, but this example of teamwork is often given in the context of, as a shining example of teamwork, and also delegation, I must say. Each bee has a specific job. You know about this. But I'm using it in a different sense. I'm talking about the team structure, basically. The team structure, how the structure that the teams must have, especially in terms of the delegation. As I told you, I actually lead an institute where we have a leadership program that focuses on interprofessional collaboration. Interprofessional collaboration is collaboration among different professions, specifically healthcare-oriented professions, to enhance health outcomes. So we see that in such context, if you have a team, it is open channels of communication. Then, of course, leadership, which is often distributed, strength-based leadership, and of course, the power to, or the ability to monitor, situation monitoring, and mutual support and trust that are very, very important in this aspect. So structure and delegation of work is very critical to the productivity of the team. So delegate work evenly and efficiently among the team members. It's extremely important. So proper team structure can promote proper teamwork, or I would say promote teamwork by including the clear leadership involving. So best example is from the health sciences only, I would say. A properly structured patient care team is an enabler for and the result of effective communication, leadership, situation monitoring, and mutual support, which I have focused here. So I move on to my last and final example that I wanted to give you from the animal kingdom. And you are familiar with these creatures. These are the beavers, right? Who are known for working hard and creating dams using sticks, bark, rock, mud, whatever they get, they used. Now, I'm giving this particular example to bring a very important concept that is especially important in pandemic times. ABCD stands for asset-based community development. This is a strategy for suitable community-driven development. We may be wondering why it has to come along with team building and teamwork, because this is where how you link the micro assets, to the macro environment of the team or the community. And anything that does not actually favor human welfare, of course, need to be checked twice. So that is why when we need to talk about team building, teamwork, all these things in the context of these scenarios. So the appeal of asset-based community development is it can drive communities. That communities can, or I mean rather it is the communities that drive the developmental process themselves. So team identifies it. They identify it. They mobilize the existing but often unrecognized assets. And they respond to creating a local opportunity. Now, it could be economic, it could be related to jobs, or it could be related to anything for that matter. So it builds on the assets that are already found in the community, and it mobilizes individuals, institutions, and so on to come together and to build on their assets, not concentrate on their needs. Okay. Now, when it comes to that, one of the most the guidelines, or the flow, it's based on positive leadership. It's based on strength-based, and it's appreciative. So what is good in people, and based on that you have a group, and then you map the capacities and assets. You make your community vision, mobilize it, and of course then comes the activity and resources that team will undertake. So the key is to begin to use what is already available in the community. So that is what I had to share with this limited time that was given to me, and I hope that the examples that I gave from the wild did appeal to you. So thank you so much, and I'll be happy to respond to any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a wonderful session. With your permission, we would like to take up a few questions that the delegates have asked. We
Yes,
have a
please.
question by Dr. Divya Shri. What if a team that's initially formed, later the teammates turn out to be incompatible?
This is a very contextual question, you know. So often what you get to see is you drop that person and move ahead. I mean, that is what is often seen in organizations. But we are talking about a team building that would actually consider the strengths of human beings and at the same time try to see what are those, how do we actually using their strengths, how do we really complement their weaknesses. I mean, I believe in a philosophy where you must actually leverage on your strengths so that your weaknesses, so every organization have people who are good in certain things, so we must identify that. And the very brutal mechanism of leaving them alone or throwing them off in the corporate world is not something that I can allude to, because I'm basically an academic. Anil, who is coming later from the corporate, will be able to answer. For my perspective is to basically look at what is the best in people, and then of course assign them based on that. So every human being has a potential. The problem is when the organization fails to identify that potential.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, how important is hierarchy in a team, and what is the role of a leader in the team?
Well, it's known that a team can, make or break is actually based on the leadership it has. We have seen in the past teams that had very low functioning team members or individuals, but just because of the leaders and the leading potential that they have, the teams have. At the same time, we also see that in spite of having wonderful people in the team with all capabilities and competencies, sometimes it is the leader who can rock the boat. So leadership, I'm answering the question, leadership is extremely important. But at the same time, you must understand the leadership that we are talking about today is more of the leadership that involves, so everybody is a leader at some point of time, though there is some hierarchy inherent to the organization. So you can't have too many vice chancellors, you can't have too many CEOs, and obviously it has to be somebody who has been. But at the same time, the leadership that we talk about is not about the positions that we talk about. It is inherent to the process, and everyone contributes to the goals of the organization of teams. So in that way, if you look at all our leaders, but at the same time there is some essential hierarchy that is inherent to the system, and that doesn't mean that things will the whole thing or the whole process is based on hierarchy. No, it may not. It all depends upon how the leadership and how the team and their organizational culture has evolved and how they sustain it, promoting all talents and the potential of the people in the team. I hope it answers your question.
So that was truly a privilege to have you with us today. And I'm sure the delegates enjoyed the way you correlated team building to the animal kingdom. So now with your permission, we'll be moving on to the next session.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I hope each one of you do well, not only in the field of research, but in your professions and in your personal lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have a talk titled Interpersonal Conflict Management, which will be delivered by Professor Anil D'Souza. Professor Anil D'Souza completed his undergraduate education with a degree in BCom from the St. Andrews College